Welcome to the Dr.Jimmy podcast. In this series, we'll be showcasing different people's stories and we'll be platforming them. Come and join us on this odyssey as we learn from people's experiences. Come, subscribe, comment, and leave your like, and please share with your friends and family and help us on this journey as we go in minds that are yet to voyage. Let's go.
The argument could be that patriarchy is the one that birthed feminism.
I also want to talk about feminism and female empowerment. To me, they're not the same thing.
Okay.
Feminism to me is something more toxic.
People like me who overshare are needed.
Would you be with a man who has no job, is unemployed?
While women are called to respect their men, men are called to love.
Exactly, you know. And there's some things that women are just better than men at. And
I always wanted to fit in with the boys, but then you get reminded, oh, you're a girl. Don't.
Dr. Zozo is coming back.
And I can't.
Welcome to the Dr. Jimmy podcast. Today, I'll be introducing to you a woman who, if I would have to introduce, I would have to do it Idi Amin style. She's a doctor, she's a hairstylist, a poet. You know, I feel like if I were to introduce her, I'd be doing a disservice to her. So I'm going to pass on the word to you, Dr. Tendie, so that you can introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you so much, Jimmy, for inviting me. It's really a great honor. It feels nice to be on someone else's, hot seat.
Yeah.
I think I'm always putting other people on the hot seat. But anyways, my name is Dr.Tendie Mona Lisa. I'm from Zimbabwe. I do so many things. I'm a woman of many talents, I would love to say. I am a medical doctor. I have a podcast called the Journey of Life podcast. I also have a hair page. I do hairstyling. So I'm a self-taught hairstylist at Zozo on Instagram. And I also have a YouTube channel that is a little dormant, but yeah, I think that's mostly it. I am a loving daughter, sister, and just a girl out here trying to make the best with my talents and with the gifts that God gave me, I would say.
Awesome. You know, one thing that, I like about you is how you always on this journey to improve yourself, and you show it in your podcast, the Journey of Life podcast. Before we start, can you tell us a little bit about your podcast, Journey of Life?
Well, thank you for listening, firstly. Journey of Life podcast, as the name says, is about the journey of life. It's ups and downs, the things that we learn. So for me, I think it's important to share my experiences and also the experiences of others. So the premise of the podcast is for each person, who listens to capture something, to learn something from someone else's experience. And if you listen to the podcast, it has two parts. So it has an education segment, and then the other part is just when we get to share our stories, our lessons. It's almost like just a talk with someone. But the education segment is important because I want people to be able to have access to more information on the things they're interested in pursuing in life. So it could be a degree program, it could be a pastime activity. If you're into, let's say, for example, if you're into DJing, you can really listen how someone started the journey and what they needed, what qualities you need to develop in yourself, etc. So that's what the journey of life is like. So everybody comes along with me, what I'm experiencing now, what I've experienced in the past, and we move along together in this, ever convoluted journey of life.
One thing I like about the Journey of Life podcast, and it's one of the things that caused me to reach out to you, is that the idea of your podcast, or the philosophy of your podcast, it's kind of married to mine. In this everybody has a story. We are really just going through someone's journey, how they achieved what they have achieved, how they dealt with the struggles, with the hurdles and all, and to learn from those experiences. And this is why I'm really glad to have you on. I want to talk to you about medicine. Why did you choose medicine? why medicine,
Yeah, sometimes it feels like a choice, sometimes it doesn't. I feel like there were some subliminal messages that were sent to me as a kid, when once I developed a little bit of interest in anything medically related, then the parents are like, we're gonna push this. She's gonna be a doctor. But honestly, I've always wanted to be a medic. I remember growing up, we had this family doctor, Dr. Muhammad, and he would always, whenever we'd go for checkups with my mom, he would always let me play around with his stethoscope and all these things. So that interest grew, and I feel like probably my parents also helped to nurture it and grow it.
Just passively, right?
Yeah, or even actively, who knows. They were
crazy.
Yeah, and then I think I've always been interested. I would always watch like these gory shows, surgery, and all this Dr. 90210 where they're doing liposuction, like plastic surgery. Yeah, when I was in primary school, I enjoyed like watching this stuff. So I think I was always interested, and I think I've always been interested in medicine. And then of course it grew, and of course the influence around it. And I was also really bright in school, so you know how African parents are. The moment you're bright, our doctor, our lawyer, our engineer,
medicine or nothing else.
So I think that probably helped to push that. Yeah, so and here I am.
That. And going into medical school, now, how was your journey? How did you apply? Did you find it difficult to apply? Can you tell us?
Yeah, wow. I can't believe I'm saying this now, because at the time it felt like, whew, this is a journey of a lifetime, but it's crazy now that it's over. This was almost, I think, 8-9 years ago. So I just finished my A-levels. I didn't do so well. Well, at least in my country, if you want to study medicine, there's no pre-med course that you can do or something like this. Like, your A-levels have to meet the requirement.
Yeah.
And it's a bottleneck, so it's very, very competitive. Exactly. So unfortunately, my A-levels didn't go so well. Yeah, that's a story for another day. Or you can check out my podcast. But yeah, and I wasn't eligible to get into med school. So it was really hard, I guess. But I think I came around and accepted it. So now I've accepted everything, and then here comes along my mom's sister, my aunt, and she tells us about the University of Debrecen, because her friend's daughter had studied here and completed her med school, and she was like, yeah, she can really come and she can study medicine. I know she's right enough. I know she's feeling discouraged right now, but I totally believe that she's capable. And initially I was scared. And then my mom was like, just check it out. I go onto the website. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so green, And these uni pictures that they put on the websites where, there's like a group of international students sitting on the grass, and you're like, this is kind of cool. I always wanted to study abroad, so I was like, well, you know what, this looks nice. So I go onto the website, and then I see basic medicine course. I see general medicine course, and I'm like, this general medicine course is looking a little too much. So I'm going to go with the basic, because I'm basic level. I didn't even make it. So I think I was still feeling that insecurity in myself, feeling that, okay, I'm not the stuff, I'm not capable. So that's why I chose BMC. So now, actually, because I did A-levels, I could have just taken an entrance test and gone straight into first year. But because I had already chosen BMC, I think I was exempted from the test, and I only had to do the interview, and which went beautifully. And then I got accepted, and then the next thing, we're paying the deposit. The next thing, I'm in Debrecen. So when I arrived in Debrecen with my aunt, that's when, this friend's daughter now wrote to me via email, and she's like, but why are you doing BMC? You can go straight into first year. That's when we realized that, oh, this BMC thing is like a pre-med course. In my head, I was like, BMC is a special course for people. This is the medicine for people who are my level. Yeah. Then the general one is the medicine for people who are at the other level. I know, crazy. It was so stupid. But yeah, I think it was that insecurity talking to me. And I started the BMC. They couldn't enroll me into first year because I was already enrolled in BMC. Classes were already starting. But it was my blessing. Yeah.
You know, when I think about this thing that happened to you in BMC, to me it feels like a certain type of confusion I would make. You know, I would just go and be like, basic medicine course, and then and then for I chose basic medicine course. You know, sometimes I'm just so out like that. But tell me, how was it? You obviously, since it was something that you probably you knew a little bit more than what was for BMC. You know, you undervalue yourself, but you knew more.
Yeah.
You know, you probably cruised through BMC.
I did. I did.
So how was it once you got into medicine? How was it, your experience?
Yeah. Maybe I would like to mention, before I got into medicine, after I completed the BMC successfully, I was still scared. Because of course, by the time I complete BMC, I now know that, after BMC comes the real med school. So I finished it and I was really scared. And I remember telling my mom, Mom, you know, I can get into public health. It's like cheaper. It costs less as well than med school. I was still so scared. And I remember the words that my mom told me. She said, you know, if they wanted to test if you were the stuff for medicine, they tested it and you're just the stuff. And I think those words, I was like, okay, if my mom thinks I'm it, then those are the words I'm going to hold on to. And that's how I started med school, first year and everything.
It's very important you mentioned that whenever you had something going on, you always went back to your mom. You know, before you get into the into the staff of med school, can you tell me how important was your support system, or is your support system to what you have achieved or what you have gone through for you?
I would say my support system is literally the reason why I'm here. Quite literally, in the sense that I think that they have propped me up in times where I was ready to give up. And I mean give up in so many ways. So I think I'm so grateful and thankful for my support system, and particularly my mom, because of course there's people that have come along in my journey, but my mom is that consistent support that I've had, you know, from the beginning. And I think now retrospectively I'm seeing it and appreciating it more. So her support was incredible. Even in that time when my A-level wasn't going well, she always was invested in finding out what was going on with me. While I think other people were just used to seeing me fly through, so they couldn't really understand my own personal struggle, but she saw me. She was that one person who saw me every single time. So I'm so grateful for her support and everybody else who started to come into my life and like lift me up, prop me up. Yeah, but my mom, I'm telling you that she has done a stellar job. I can only hope to be like 10% of that.
Look at you.
Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah.
I think that you're really getting to it, you know. Look at you. You've become a beautiful young doctor. I think she's proud, you know.
Yeah, I think seeing her watch me walk down, you know, and everything, it was so surreal for me, because I didn't think that maybe she would be able to be there for my graduation. Yeah, I feel like, you know, there's one of those things that you feel like if I achieve a certain thing in life, you know what, God, you can take me. I was like, you know, my mom has seen me graduate as a doctor. I'm done. I don't need to do anything. I can just throw away my life now.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not going to, but I felt like I've done it all.
It is finished.
It's finished now.
You know?
That's how it felt. Yeah.
You know, you feel free, you know, you feel released into the world.
The biggest release, because it took so many years to to let it go. So it was really nice. Yeah.
So tell me the journey in medicine. How was it?
Oh.
Anatomy, physiology.
I think some of those things, like, they're so far now, I've forgotten a lot about maybe some details, but definitely not the trauma. If I still pass through that anatomy building, like, my hairs stand up, even up until this day. But I think I remember first and second year were really tough. I think I still believe, I don't know how the system is now, I still believe that those are the toughest years of med school. And I think that's when the medic is made, because that's when the work ethic is built.
Yeah.
That's when the stamina is built, and that's when the humbling process happens. And if you go through that process and you come out refined, you're going to fly on from there. Because if you build the discipline that you need to build, the stamina that you need to build, you're good to go.
The consistency.
Yes. I will not say that I'm the smartest person that there was. To be honest, I'm not the most studious person that I know, but by God's grace, which was probably most of it, but also like tenacious work.
You know, it's very interesting because to me, I always felt that you don't need to be the best or gifted. You just need to be intentional, and it just really rings. You know, if you look at the people who have succeeded, if you look at, for example, if we look at Einstein, for example, he was bright, he was a genius, but he wasn't the genius. But look at what he did. If you look at Elon Musk, and I don't know if you are familiar with Elon Musk's biography. In his biography, one distinction that I saw, his biography was also the one who wrote the biography for Steve Jobs. And when he talks about Steve Jobs, he describes him as brilliant, genius, out of this world. You know, because Steve Jobs just had that it thing, you know. But Elon Musk, when he describes Elon Musk, he doesn't say, he said Elon Musk's SATs were good, but not off the charts good. Elon Musk is brilliant, but not off the charts brilliant. But it's just the consistency, the fire, as you said, the tenacity, the ability to just go.
Yeah.
I think that what makes a person the one, you know.
Yeah.
There's this quote: out of every 100 warriors, 10 shouldn't even be there, you know. 9 are just targets, but one is the warrior, and he will bring the others back. And it was a quote that was used in the warring times, and I think the one that will bring the others back is that one with the tenacity. And in whatever you do, if you just go, I think you can achieve all that you can, and it's really interesting. Yeah. So I wonder, what are some of the most recent perhaps traumas or challenges that you faced during medical school that you remember?
I mean, maybe I'll just try to carry quickly through the 6 years.
Feel free.
Yeah. So I started like first year and everything like that. And I remember at that time, I don't even know, I was so clueless, you know, about what I needed to be informed about, you know, credits. And this is why it became so important to me that I wanted to share some of the information that I didn't have about med school, hence the conception of my YouTube channel. I wanted someone to be able to just go on YouTube and know what is happening literally in med school. What are the courses? What are you experiencing in that time? Because I just didn't have that. My picture of med school was like, at the end, I will have a stethoscope, I'll be pressing onto people, and I'll be working in a hospital as a doctor. But that journey, the reality of things, I really didn't have it. And even now I can tell you there's more aspects that's like about the medical career as well in itself that I'm discovering, that I know that a lot of people like me, they don't know. And they're making decisions that are not informed. So my goal is to bring more information so you can make an informed decision. Like even before you get into med school, you can get to know, oh, med school looks like this is what I'll go through. Actually, this is not really what I want. So
and that's one of the things I really like about your YouTube channels. You know, before I came here, I used to, you know, for me, I'm that kind of statistical person who's always looking for the information, and I was looking relentlessly for YouTube channels that can inform me about Debrecen, and I found yours, and it was such a relief because it explained to me a lot about medicine in the University of Debrecen, like the grading system, the first year, second year, and you have such a nice review of like all your years, and it's such a joy. And please, can you plug in your YouTube channel to the audience so that they can go check it out?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is called Zozo, on YouTube. You can find me there. Honestly, I haven't been uploading a lot, but I think there's some valuable. I have a very valuable series called the Debrecen Diaries series there, and I share my med school journey. So if you have a friend or a sibling or anybody who's interested in med school, because I think the information applies to med school probably all over the world, and then the system that you actually have to deal with here in Debrecen if you come to the University of Debrecen. So I really encourage you to, if you don't do anything or watch anything, if you're interested in medicine, please go and watch that series. I always bump into, especially I think people are getting into first year. I always bump into them and they say how helpful the video was, and I mean I think it has quite a significant number of views, so I know people are finding it very useful, especially the one for first year. So I think it's good for people to decide whether they want to get into med school and they can handle it, or at least know what's coming at them. But yeah, I finished.
And you don't sugarcoat it, right?
No. Why? I will tell you the truth, my experience. Of course, people's experiences will be different, but I will tell you the reality that, listen, if you think you're going to come to med school to party and play around, forget about it. Go and study something else. You will have to make a lot of sacrifices. That's it. That's just it. That's the nature of the program. It's not a joke that it's notorious for being difficult, and med students are notorious for being so. There are times that you have to do that, and if you're not about that life, you might be better off pursuing something else. Yeah.
And there's this misconception, especially through the general public outside of the medical sphere, like non-medical students, that, a lot of medical students come from stellar academic backgrounds, and they think that, let me not refer to them as they, but,
we.
Yeah. We think that just because you've had this background, that you can just excel through medical school with no bruises or anything. Medical school is hard, and it's about hard work and consistency, more so than your wits.
Absolutely.
And I think it's something that even people, we need to understand, is that you need to build up that discipline, or at least mentally. You need to have the mental resilience to know, okay, I'm going to med school. This is what I need to put up with. And I think that this is something that people can find in your YouTube channel.
Yes.
And it's really, really, really awesome.
Yeah.
So, what is the biggest disappointment you faced in this journey of medical school?
Disappointment. Wow, I think it's very hard to imagine the biggest disappointment.
Failure.
I faced many failures. I faced many failures, and I think my biggest disappointment, I can't tell you a biggest disappointment, honestly, in med school. I think maybe my choices outside of med school, I can tell you, those are one of my biggest disappointments, because they had an impact on my med school. Yeah.
What choices?
But I feel like, fortunately, it didn't draw me back. Fortunately, I didn't have to repeat any year at any point. But yeah, like I think some of the decisions I made socially, let's say, the person I chose to date, for example, and how that impacted me. I think those were some of the disappointing decisions. No offense to those people. Or that,
med school is dramatic enough. You don't need more drama. Need more
but
drama.
I think for me, those are the things I look back and I'm like, maybe I could have done this differently. But in the journey itself, no. I think maybe a really interesting thing that happened upon all the other failures I faced through med school. I mean, I went through first year, I had some failures in there, but overcame. Second year, same thing. Third year, fourth year, you learn to dust yourself off every time. I think that's the process as well, that you actually realize that sometimes, you may work hard, but it may not pay off right away. It's going to pay off later, because you're building consistency, you're building discipline, you're building stamina, that you face that failure and you can come up from it. You understand?
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's what that journey was. But I think because I shared this on my podcast as well, my first attempt at my state exam, I failed it. So I think at that time, I was doing a lot of inner work. So I think I realized that at that I knew at that point when it happened that I'm going to finish this thing and I'm going to be successful at it. But yeah.
How did you feel failing your state exam, Because when we think, at least in Debrecen, when we think that after third year, graduating is something like a fait accompli, that you will just graduate no matter what without any more bumps in the way. But how did you feel like just...
I think it feels like that maybe at the stage where you're at right now, it feels like graduation. But I think once you get to fifth year and you are in final year, that graduation starts sometimes to feel even further than it felt before. Yes.
Serious?
Yes.
Right.
So at least that's how it felt for me, and I know a couple of people who can relate to this feeling. But the struggle is not academic. You see, it's mental. And that's the key thing. And I think when I managed to clock that, I realized that no, because I couldn't find my discipline, I couldn't find my way about studying, and I'm like, I've already done this for like 6 years, and I'm here, what's the problem? And I realized I needed to address things personally. Yes. And I think when I did that, I was able to, again.
And you said at this point you were already working, doing inner works within yourself.
Yes, exactly. So and I think I think on my podcast as well, I share this particular series. I just have it by myself without any guest. It's called Depression Isn't a Joke. Not that I'm self-diagnosing or anything like that, but I think I was facing those like depressive episodes in and out, and I never fully addressed them. And I think I got to a point in my life, in my final year, that I was completely overwhelmed. Like with the emotional baggage, you understand?
Yeah.
So that's what started affecting my sleep, my concentration abilities and all these things. And I just found myself completely like, I can't move, I stuck, I know I'm capable of this. There's nothing new that I'm doing here in final year, but what's going on? I can't study, I can't be productive. And I had really started my final year on a roll, and then I just came to that mental breakdown point.
What do you think causes this depression, and what do you think is depression as well? Because I think that sometimes depression comes when you find yourself stuck and there is no clear path, and you're filled with anxiety and procrastination and all this. But I want to see your perspective on it.
Yeah, but my perspective is that the anxiety, procrastination, and all these things, I think they're just the symptoms. They are not the actual problem of what's going on. So I'll say in my in my experience, or personally, what I think was contributing to my depression is my lack of healthy coping mechanisms. You understand? And these develop from a very early point in your life, even in your childhood. So that's how far back I had to start digging to realize like some of the coping mechanisms that I've built in my life that are not good, whether if it's like avoidance, for example, or I think a great coping mechanism for me was just sleeping. Because if I'm sleeping, I'm not conscious, you understand? I don't have to think about, maybe the things that are bothering me. But guess what? You are not productive, right?
You're not.
So there's constant procrastination. So these are also some of the signs of depression, like poor sleep hygiene, like insomnia, not being able to sleep, hypersomnia. So for me, I was just like fluctuating between these. And I realized when I was now taking account, this is now happening in final year, but think about it, throughout med school, I've been going through these episodes and somehow coming out. And then I just get to this point where I'm just overwhelmed. So I remember particularly when I was like in BMC, I was an insomniac. I would sleep maybe 2 hours in a day. But my problem at that time, I was really struggling to adjust. I was missing home. School was fine. I was doing fine because I had done this before at A level, but so that went unaddressed, and I developed this coping mechanism. It's growing, it's growing, it's growing along the way. And before you know it, you are now in that place where you need to be productive and you can't be.
You can't.
So it creates this vicious cycle that now you're crucifying yourself. I felt I'm so ungrateful. I have this amazing opportunity. I'm almost at the end. So many people are looking at this and they're wishing they were in this position, and I'm not utilizing it.
Were you disgusted with yourself?
Absolutely. I felt really ungrateful. I felt really like, wow, you make it this far and you can't even just get up to study so that you can just finish this off. But I think when I realized I didn't have the solutions, because as the way I am, I'm very introspective, I would like to think. So I'm going on YouTube, I'm doing my own personal research, trying to listen to different people whose opinions I respect and everything, but I'm not figuring out how to solve my problem.
Yeah.
And then I think at that point in time, that's when I took the opportunity. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, listen, I'm really struggling like mentally right now, and I'm just really overwhelmed with everything. And I'm towards the end, so even just the pressure of thinking that, oh, everybody's expecting me to graduate, and what that was also like weighing down on me. And I reached out to the brochure that I was given, because I went to the GP and I told them, I said, I think I'm depressed. Because at that point I was like, if someone's gonna give me antidepressants or anything, I will take them, because I just wanted to be able to be productive and just finish this thing. But then I think at that point, when I got ready, I wrote to I think the university has a mental health counselor or email that you can write to and you can talk to someone. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to utilize this opportunity. And I will tell you today, that was one of the wisest decisions I made for myself.
Sure.
I thought if I prayed hard enough, if I did this hard enough, that's what was going to get me back. But working on those things, childhood things, the mental and emotional trauma that I was collecting throughout the years that was not addressed, that's what helped me. That's what even helped to even restore my own personal relationship with God that was also dying along the way. Yeah.
Sure. So you really needed some deep inner work.
Yes.
As we all do.
And I promise you, from that point, I was left with 3 exams, the biggest exams of final year. I was left with neurology, internal medicine, and pediatrics. I did them within 2.5 months. I was left with only 1.5 weeks when I did the last one, which was neuro, before my state exam. So I knew that's why I failed it, because I didn't have time.
Yeah, you didn't have.
So I knew it's not because I'm not capable or I'm not going to. At that point, I already knew I didn't have time. I was exhausted. I was tired. I did these big exams in such a short period of time, and for sure I knew the next attempt was going to be successful.
How did you deal with it? Because they say that losing is hard for those without humility. Because if you are humble, and this is something that I personally struggled a lot. Coming out of high school, I felt invincible, that I was ready to take the world, If we go to basketball,
Life will humble you.
Exactly. If we go to basketball, they would describe me as him,
I'm done. Okay.
Yeah. But coming to med school, it was really a humbling experience, because you learn that you have to put in the work, you have to put in the hours, and you are no longer exempt from failure.
No.
You're no longer exempt from. I remember one time, and this was when I failed my microbiology exam, and I was distraught. I was disgusted with myself. I would even say I was in a state of despair, And they say that despair is different from depression, because despair is a state where you start rejecting yourself. It's the annihilation from the self, and that's what I was feeling.
That's
and
deep.
It took me a while, and I wasn't humble. I want to believe that is something that I've worked on, but at that moment it just buried me. that was the moment I had to realize that, hey, I'm no longer exempt from failure. Things are gonna happen. I have to be strong. You know, you don't know how strong you can become until being strong is the only option you have. This is something that my mentor told me, and it really stays. And it's something, after that, I just worked on myself. I worked harder, consciously knowing that, hey, things are gonna happen, and it's such a great awareness to have, that hey, things can happen, but you can still proceed, you can still succeed. Vivek, one of the great people I look up to is Vivek Ramaswamy, American billionaire, and he always overpromises, but knowing that even if he fails, he can still proceed. We can putting the overpromising aside, but the thing I respect about him is that whether or not he fails, he knows that failure is part of the plan. If you
Yes.
if failure is part of your plan to success and learning from those failures, I like your chances, and it's something really that sticks to me, and is something that I live by. I just want to know your experience. How is your coping mechanisms with this great failure that you experienced?
Yeah, well, honestly, I don't consider it a great failure. I feel
Not great, but
yeah,
big.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's big to other people. It's really not big to me.
Huh.
It's not. But I know that it's this
That's
significant.
very humble.
I'm saying it as honestly as I can. It's really not big to me, because I think for me, they say, success is failure after failure without giving up.
Yeah.
You actually fail the moment you give up.
Yeah.
And I think at that point in time, my spirit had rose up again. I was not defeated. So I think that if I was in a different headspace, or the headspace that I'd been before, I think that would have been a great failure for me. I think I would not have been able to handle it or take it at all. But for me, it wasn't the greatest failure. I think probably I would even consider other things in my life like big failures, because of how impactful they were in that time for me. Like, for example, my A-level, that one impacted me. This state exam, it didn't. But I think it was a good teachable moment for other people, and that's why I needed to share it in the moment that it had happened, not after the success. I felt like it was a teachable moment, how I could spread information on how to prepare for the state exam, and I could also share, because on my podcast I invited another doctor. He's no longer here in Debrecen, but we talked because he was in a similar situation, and we shared, what that taught us, and how that, how to overcome such a situation. And when I shared that story, there were so many people who wrote to me, "Oh, Tendie, I was in the same position last semester. Oh, it happened to me too." So you see, people are facing this thing in silence, and that's what makes it a big thing when it's actually very common that it's happening. So I think for me, it was a teachable moment for myself to face and to receive these failures as part of my way of developing myself, and refining myself. When you're making like a sharp sword or something, it has to go through a lot of hammering and heating and all these things. So for me, that's what it was for me. But I was able to cope because I think I was conscious of I need to develop good coping mechanisms.
Is the reason why it wasn't so big, was it because you expected it to happen? Because
yes, I think in my head I already had my strategy. Okay, if the written state exam is not a success, this is what I'm going to do. If it is, it means this is what I need to start doing to prepare for my graduation. So for me, it was just like, okay, this or that. Yeah, of course it didn't feel good. I think if anything, what worsened the feeling was the fact that I think one person that I very much respected their opinion didn't take it too well, or maybe their response was was less than encouraging at that specific time where it was still fresh, and sensitive. So that is what felt bad, but not the failure in itself, because I could see how it can happen. Does that make sense?
And you were aware that this is a challenge you were going to face, because you were having your bouts of depression and stuff. And this is just a point of encouragement to the people at home. In life you will face challenges, and you'll face many of them. There's this thing that always sticks to my heart, and it's like, if you don't come face to face with the devil, it's because you're walking with him. But if you don't meet challenges, you're not going to the right direction. You're not growing.
You're the challenge.
Exactly, exactly. But character is developed through adversity. Even if we look through it through a spiritual lens, character brings adversity brings character and strengthens us and makes us become who we need to be for that next step in our purpose. And I'm really grateful that you had to go to these experiences, even if at first they might seem to have been really off, especially in your A levels.
That was a dark, terrible time for me.
But
I'm still recovering now.
Exactly. But you became who you needed to become for your medical school, and knowing how to deal with, you realize that when you failed again big time, it wasn't that big anymore, because you already undergone it.
I know, I'm not invincible.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your hobbies? What are your hobbies? Is it just medicine for you? Do you have anything aside? Or is medicine your side hustle?
I remember one of my guests said something like that, and I laughed. I was like, this is a good way to put it, hey? But I don't think medicine is my side hustle. I think I'd be lying if I said that. It was always the main thing, and everything else was a side hustle. Maybe that might change in the near future, but because I think I have this new revelation of who I am as a person, and that I want to leave the earth empty. I want to release what God gave me. So I feel like the things that I put aside in pursuit, let's say, of medicine or academia, I want those things to thrive again. So my love for speaking and impacting people, and this is why I started to revive, me podcasting, finding a platform where I can do those things, because I know that it is part of my calling, and I'm confident in that. And I know that even if it's one person, I have somebody to reach out to. So, but anyways, as far as what I enjoy doing, I love reading. I write poetry, comes and goes. The inspiration comes and goes. I love poetry. I do hair. It's a hobby and a side hustle as well. So
you do hair?
Yes. I braid. I mean, I've done my own hair. This hair that I have. Actually, nobody's ever done my hair since I came. So it's been 8-9 years since anybody has ever done my hair.
Did you learn it by yourself? Or?
Yeah. So I learned to do hair on myself before I started to do it on other people. And that's how my little hair business here in Debrecen also kind of grew. From that, I just wanted to do my own hair, I'm an only daughter, so I didn't really have sisters, and my mom has a sensitive scalp. She was not the most creative with hairstyles, so I always wanted to have the hairstyles that the other girls had in school and stuff. So I started learning how to do it on myself until the skill grew and developed. And then when I came to uni, one of my friends I had at the time, she saw my hair, I had just done it, and she was like, oh my gosh, it's so good. Who did your hair? I was like, oh, I did myself. She was like, it's good. Could you do for me? I said, hey, I just know how to do my own hair. She was like, but if it's this good, there's no way you're going to mess up my own. So I actually declined quite a bit. Then I was like, you know what, let's do it. Because I was happy to have the opportunity to play around with someone's hair as well, not having sisters to do this with. So we did it, and it was so pretty. And people were asking her, and that's how that grew. And people were like, yeah, we can even pay you and stuff. And it grew and more. And I think even the work ethic, the business etiquette and stuff, I started to build it, and until, yeah, and I would take pictures, but I think I was never confident about it because I just felt like an amateur always.
Yeah.
Until the times of Instagram really becoming a thing came along. And I remember my dearest, closest friend, Dr. Chido, and best friend, she was the one who was like, she created my Instagram page, my hair page that I have today. She created it, password, everything. She gave it to me. She said, there, post it.
Sure.
You're good enough. Post it. And
Empowering. My goodness.
I've been empowered by so many women up until the point that I'm in. Like I told you, the first person was my mother, and I'm very fortunate to have that level of impact from a parental figure. Not everybody gets that. You know, the women that have come into my life have really, truly empowered me because, yeah.
And this is something really critical and female empowerment, and I believe in it. You know, it's something that I appreciate. You know, female empowering other female, or even men empowering other females is something we need more of. But I also want to talk about feminism and female empowerment. To me, they're not the same thing.
Okay.
Feminism to me is something more toxic, if I may call it, you know.
Yeah.
And even it's something to undermine, man, it's like a disruption in the hierarchy, you know.
Do you believe there's a hierarchy?
That's something really deep.
You ready to get cancelled?
I'm not ready to get cut. I just started, but
Yeah.
I do believe there is a hierarchy.
Okay. And
I do
who's at the apex?
Oh my goodness. But I believe that the man is at the apex of the hierarchy. But I think there is an hierarchy not because of ego. I think there needs to be a hierarchy. Because even in any system, there needs to be a hierarchy. And it is just more attractive for the man to be on top of that hierarchy. I do believe that
It's attractive for who?
even for the woman. Because what do you think? Would you be with a man who has no job, is unemployed and nothing? I do
But
believe
that's
that
an extreme, don't you think?
it is an extreme.
Yeah.
But especially in the leadership role, you know, I do believe that men should lead. Maybe in making more at a certain point, you know, it's fine if the female makes more. If, you know, it is okay if the man can still be the one who lead, especially at certain
So
instances.
is this in like a relationship setting or in a professional setting?
In a relationship setting.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
of
I
course,
hear
if the woman is the boss, it's fine. You know, it's what you find in that environment. You should respect. And it's something. For example, I'm an usher, and at church, it's mostly females, and my leader is female, and I respect her a lot. And you know, I have no. It's not an ego thing. Like, oh, I'm the man. I should. No. But I feel like in the relationship, there needs to be that. Men should be able to lead, and I think that the lady should voluntarily, you know, relinquish that role and give it to the guy. Not, but
Well, sorry, let me just catch you on there.
yeah,
I think that, because I think you're talking about submission, right?
yes,
Exactly. In a relationship type of setting,
Yeah.
personally, what I believe is that just like both, you're Christian?
I am.
Okay. So I think maybe we have the same beliefs
Yeah.
when it comes to the role of a man and
Yeah.
of a woman in a marriage and everything like that. So I do believe in all this submission stuff.
Exactly.
But you know, while women are called to respect their men, men are called to love.
Exactly.
So it is almost instinctive for these things to happen. If the love is there, you get if you give love, you get respect.
Yeah.
So they happen hand in hand. I think a lot of the problem, what I think, is that both parties are expecting their needs to be met, but they're not willing to meet the other need. So as women, we are also withdrawing. Men also withdraw the love. Give me my respect first, right? We
Yeah.
withdraw the respect. Give me my love first. So I think that's just the imbalance that's happening. But this is my personal I guess, belief where it comes to relationships, where I do expect and would want the men to be the head and to lead and all these things. I definitely have that expectation out of a partner. I won't even lie to you.
Exactly.
For them to be a protector and for them to be a provider, you know. And I think that as far as maybe tasks in the physical sense, you know, I feel like they should be distributed according to abilities.
Exactly.
Because you find that some people they just have a knack for certain things, even though maybe those abilities are more male dominated. Some guys just have a knack for cooking, even though those roles are more female dominated. I feel like, for me personally, we balance it out according to our abilities. Exactly. But I think this part where the leadership role, who's the head of the family type of role, I believe in the Christian way of doing things where the man is the leader. So maybe that would not be considered feminist of me, right? Because we were also talking about feminism, and I think you were expressing what feminism symbolizes now and what has become. But from what I've understood, there's a book that I read, I think it's called City of Girls. And I think it starts in the 1940s, around the time of the World War. And I think that's when the rise of feminism came, you know, the contraceptive pill came to be and all these things, because it allowed women to own their lives. And naturally, because of the war, women started to take up, you know, men's roles in terms of like in factories and things like that, because the men were going to war, right? Yes. And for me, the empowerment of those women and their feminism, I felt like it spoke what feminism is about. It's not about taking down men, it's just about propping up women. And I don't think that it's like you can't prop up women without putting down men. I don't think that it's like that. You can bring up women without bringing down men. So for me, I personally don't agree with modern day feminism, where as long as it's radicalized and it's about putting men down and saying we don't need men as a society for anything and we hate men, I don't agree with it.
Men are trash.
And men are trash and things like that. You can be, but that's just inherently are. I don't agree with it. I have brothers. I have amazing men in my life who have impacted me greatly, who have taken care of me, who have protected me. So I love men and I respect them. You get what I'm saying? And I'm a heterosexual female. I want a partner who is a man.
Wait, you're telling me you don't have pronouns?
Huh?
You're telling me you don't have pronouns?
Well, there's some of us who don't. We're still here.
All right,
you can refer me to
Let's
me.
not try to get cancelled.
I'm her. I'm still her.
All right.
Yeah, but this is my personal opinion on like feminism. So maybe I may not be considered a feminist because of this is my personal life philosophy. And then as far as women empowerment, I think for me, what it means is what these women in my life have done. They have reminded me who I am. They have supported me. You know what I mean? They have propped me up. That's empowering me. Empowering somebody is also giving them the tools, which is something that I think I want to do. And I naturally have a love for it because I'm a woman. So I'm gonna think and gear it towards other women, towards the young Tendie, you know, from a few years ago. So I would love to empower women that way, whether with skills, with information, with education. But I want to overall empower everybody, even the men too. I think empower everyone.
I think the way to do it best is as women grow, men to grow as well. You know, so as there's no need to put someone down, you know, there's not a ceiling to it. You know, as women grow, men can grow as well, you know. And there's some things that women are just better than men at. And
but you know, the argument could be that patriarchy is the one that birthed feminism. Because if everything was about balance from the start, then women didn't have to come up. Right?
I agree.
So it's like this monster is the men that made this monster.
Exactly. And just especially, and you were talking about this book, City of Girls, and it talked about women in factories. And this is something that I was reading on, and it was at least the feeling of feminism was birthed from there. You know, when men went to war, especially in this great World War One and World War Two, female were placed in factories because there were no more men, and they were given a specific income, you know, and because of that, they didn't want to go back home and just play that role again. They wanted to feel that independence again, and to me, that it is a belief or an idea with no evil intent. It's just trying to get something more of their situation, and I can respect that. But what feminism has become, it's something completely off of that. And there was even this British Prime Minister who said something like, "If I would love feminism if it were still needed," and it's not clear to me that it is needed anymore. I suspect it still is, but what my fear is that we are going into a way that, it's just like racism, how people were propagating, racism, and now black people are actually the ones who are being racist against white people, like the tyranny of the minority, kind of. So I suspect that if this goes on like this, it's gonna be the
it's just
same.
going to be the other side of the coin.
Exactly.
No different.
And creates another uproar.
Yeah, I hope maybe probably as a society, if we can continue to try to tread, I don't know if it will be completely possible, but try to tread the balance of, equity, equality. Like if I am just as an amazing doctor as you are, I deserve to be paid just as much as you're paid. I deserve to be respected just as much as you're respected based off of my merit, that I am capable. Personally, I'm a person who definitely feels like if I have value to offer, then I have value to offer. I also wouldn't want to just be afforded opportunities that I'm not capable of or that I'm not necessarily deserving of just because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an insult to my intelligence.
It is.
If I need to be a certain level, then I'm going to be a certain level to achieve that thing, and I deserve that respect, and I deserve whatever compensation that comes with it and everything like that, despite my race or my sex, or I don't know, maybe the other things that I identify with that are not, that are not part of the thing that we're referring to. So that's where I stand. Yeah.
I want to ask you one question before we go on break. Would you do it again? Medicine. Would you, if you hadn't done medicine before, would you do it again?
Right now, as I speak, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it again. Why?
Tell me about it.
Because I feel like the path of medicine was also like the child of, the academic prowess of my youth and everything like that. I believe I have other talents that if they were nurtured from that time as well, they could have grown into something that I keep imagining what could it be. So if I went back, I would probably go and pursue those other talents and see where they would take me. I wouldn't come back to do med school again.
So you would say that medicine, it's not in line with your purpose, or at least your calling.
I think it is.
It is in line?
I think it is in line. It's just not something I would redo again. No, I would not put myself through that again. It's absolutely in line with my purpose. I think it's that one thing that when I got into it, I feel like God confirmed that I needed to be here. And He saw it through because it has a purpose in my life. The journey I went through here is this woman that you see today.
Okay.
This med school journey is what birthed who I am today, and I think that was necessary, and it's part of my purpose and calling. Yeah.
Do you think that purpose is something you were born for, or is something you choose?
Oh, that's a tough one. I've never really thought about it that way, but I would go with the first. Something you are born for, because you don't really choose it. Like I will tell you some of the things that I'm naturally I didn't choose these things. I just saw myself this way. I just saw myself loving to debate and public speaking and writing poetry and being a talker. I think I was just born into it. Yeah.
But you say that medicine is in line with your purpose. And you say that purpose is something you were born to do. Yeah? But you wouldn't do it again.
No. Yeah, because like I said, if the choice was mine, if it was not destiny, if it was not my purpose to have this journey, and I'm just choosing, I would probably choose a different path. But I do believe that God had his plans when he put me right here and everything that happened. But of course, I can be curious about, okay, if I didn't do medicine, what could I have done? And, you know, how further could I have pursued, let's say, my speaking career? Where would I be today? Let's say if that was the focus or something like that. Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody trying to find their purpose in life?
Yeah, I think because, you know, I think I'm Christian, I would refer you to pray. But I think for people who don't, let's say, who have other beliefs, so in general, I think try different things. Open up your mind. I think I've had so many talks with people where maybe they would be like, oh, you're so good at braiding, that's great, you know, I'm not good at anything. And I'm like, the moment you tell yourself that, then you're going to kill the desire to try. To try different things. So I would say one of the ways you can find your purpose is actually to try different things and apply yourself. And you will find out passions that you never thought that you had, because, you know, you gave yourself an opportunity to try something new. And I think that's part of the journey of university. It's not about just getting your degree. It's about finding your purpose. And this is why for me, all this crazy, it's like all this hyper focus on academia and all these things. Fine, you will achieve the degree, but who will you be outside of it?
And it speaks volume to the thing you said about dying empty. You know, if you have been doing something something that you can release or you can give to the world, but you don't really use it, you're not gonna die empty. You know.
No, this is why they say the richest place is the grave, because all the great minds and all the potential that has been untapped is there.
Amen.
Meanwhile, we need all that here. We are going through some crazy things. We need all that potential there. So I think maybe if we strive for that, if you're striving to draw out your potential, you will go different places trying to seek that out from yourself. And I think it would be a great way to discover your purpose in life, I think.
True.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go on break, so you stay there and come and listen to us as we go through the journey of Dr. Tendie again. Stay put. Welcome back. Now we're back with Dr. Tendie, and one thing I really want to discuss with you is your experience in Debrecen. You know, Debrecen is such a very serene place. How was it for you? How did you adapt? Did you meet someone when you came here? And how did you cope?
Yeah, so Debrecen was quite the adjustment for me. Very bumpy one, actually, because I went to boarding school back home in Zimbabwe, and I thought that, you know, being away from home was not going to be so hard for me, but it was, because this was a new continent, new culture, new country, new language, everything, you know, new society environment, and there weren't a lot of Zimbabwean people, if any. So when I started BMC, I think I was the only one. I think for a couple of months, actually, I didn't even bump into any Zimbabweans until I bumped into, a friend of my cousin. Well, at that point I didn't know there was a Zimbabwean here. She saw my name on Facebook and saw that I was in Debrecen. So she told her, look, this looks like a Zimbabwean name, and this person is in Debrecen. So she was like, oh my gosh, I know they don't know anyone else, because that's how there's no other Zimbabweans.
Yeah.
So she reached out to me, we met. But so she now told me there was another Zimbabwean guy. So she was in her final year dentistry, and he was in his final year medicine. So they're not really here like that, you know. So I think from when I started first year, that's when more Zimbabweans, but they would come in like, okay, now we're
Small
two
doses.
more. Now we are, now we are 5 now we are 8 now, and then more numbers came in and the community grew. But I would say the people that actually showed me around when I came here, I give so many thanks to my Angolan brother, Geraldo. I know he's a big leader in your community. He's like a brother to me. I have so much respect for him and love for him. He literally showed me, this is education center. This is where you're going to take your lectures. This is where you're going to take your classes. He really looked out for me. He showed so much generosity and kindness. Would go to church together. Him, Fred, Mario. He's not here anymore and everything. So yeah, like I'm so grateful. So that's how it started, and I started building my own community of friends, and things like that. People were also studying the same thing with me. I got out of my shell as well because I was super introverted. I was really struggling. I know, right?
Introverted you.
I became introverted because I was just going through a difficult time. So I started to not associate with people, keep to myself, and I wasn't living in the hostel, which didn't help. So every time I'll go for my classes, go for my lectures, go back home. Didn't make friends, didn't interact with anyone. So it was very depressing until I got out of my shell. I think one of my cousin's friends, because she started inviting me to come and hang out with her friends. I'm starting to just interact with more people, and then she was like, Tendie, you'll never lose anything out of putting yourself out there. If that person's not your cup of tea, they're lost. And from that point onwards, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a conscious effort to be the person who's like, hi, I'm Tendie, where are you from? There's so much here that you can learn about a person, actually, compared to maybe if you're in your own home country. What country do you come from? Oh, so like, how's the culture there? Or, what language, what are you studying? There's so many conversation starters.
I think connections.
Yeah.
I think connections are the key to the world, I remember when I came here, I just had one goal. Not one goal, but one of my goals is like, you need to make connections, Jimmy.
Yes.
And it has paid off. It always pays off.
Continue to.
And connections. Harvard University made this study, and it said that the people who are going to be succeeding, especially in business going forward, are the people who build connections. And it's something that really, I see it happening in the world.
And I think it's not even just business now. It's like everywhere. Your career. It's about connections. Like, who do you know who can present you to another person who knows another person, and it like works like that because people also want someone to be vouching for you. You know what I mean? So if I hear that, this is my friend Jimmy, I know him, I have someone to hold accountable. Hey, you told me, so you know what? I trust your opinion compared to a stranger sometimes. So those connections, they're helping everywhere, everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how I met my boy Cassie, and it was a friend, he's actually the guy who cuts my hair. Shout out to your boy A, the barber.
Okay.
He really just helped me find this guy Cassie, and it has been such an amazing connection, and I think going forward it's just gonna be on and on and on. Yeah, so one thing that you said is that when you came, you were trying to look for Zimbabwean people.
Yes.
And my question is, why do people, whenever they go to a certain place, they always look for someone in their culture? I see it especially, in Nigerian people. They're always asking me, are you Nigerian? If you're Nigerian, wait, are you Nigerian? Before they ask your name, I'm like, are you Nigerian?
I think
it's something that happens in all cultures, but why do people always tend to lean towards people of the same culture? Explain to me.
I think it's a natural thing that happens, especially if you're in an unfamiliar place. You look for the most familiar thing to you.
Yeah.
So in an unfamiliar country with unfamiliar people and all these things, the first familiar thing could be someone who's from the same country with you at the very start. So I think it's like this for everyone in the beginning before they build their own genuine connections, even with other people from other places. But I feel like the danger in that at least in my opinion, is that you might leave your country but never leave it. Does that make sense? You leave Zimbabwe, but you never leave Zimbabwe.
Deep.
Yes.
You know, George Satayana even put it best. He said, set your feet in your country, but let your eyes survey the world. You know,
There you go.
it's like you might leave your country, you know, but you're always a child of the land, you know. And those who forget their country forget themselves, and it's something really deep. You can see it, for example, with Messi and Argentina, and Cristiano Ronaldo with Portugal. You know, when you just stick to your country, you have a whole population behind you to support you, you know. And it's something that is really, and I also believe that people link themselves culturally because of their similarities, you know, because as off-putting as it may be that, you know, we are different, it is true, you know. In some ways, there's a specific set of logic that a certain culture might have, a specific set of bias that a certain culture might have, you know. For example, Angolan people, they always like looking really, really, you know, some might even call it overdressing, you know, but it's something just cultural, you know. And I see it also in probably Arabs. They have it as like that as well, but you'll see some other cultures, they have it a little bit differently. I was in Namibia, and they have specific set of cultures that they embody as well. And I feel like people, you know, they say that opposites attract, but I disagree. I think similarities attract, but of course complementary people attract as well. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
this
more
is-
like a puzzle, you know, like fitting into each other
exactly.
in a way. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very common for people from the same communities to gravitate towards each other, especially
Exactly.
in an unfamiliar place, because it creates a sense of home or belonging. So I think it's almost a natural process that happens. But for me, I didn't have this privilege, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
because there wasn't any.
Yeah,
So I'll
exactly.
go to lectures, and you know, the Nigerians are together, these people, everybody's together, and I just felt left out all the time. I couldn't fit in anywhere, you know. So it was really difficult, you know, to settle in. But I think it was also partly the attitude that I also adopted. I
Yeah.
think I became a bit of a recluse. I wasn't also making a conscious effort to put myself out there, to build relationships. I just was closing myself off. But I think along the way, of course, because of circumstances, the first people I was connecting with and building friendships with were not from Zimbabwe, because there weren't too many anyway.
Yeah.
My cousin was there, but she already had her own community. I had to find my own way in my immediate environment.
Exactly.
So I started building my community. You know, I had my Angolan brothers, I had some Nigerian friends, I had Zambian friends. Like, I think for me, like, so many different countries as I went along this journey. And because of doing hair as well, I'm an extroverted person. I love to meet new people, learn about their cultures and stuff like that.
You know, adapting yourself is really
Yeah.
a big superpower. And there's something that you said, I just want to get into it. You talk about introverted and being extroverted. You consider yourself an introverted, an extroverted person, but
Yeah.
when you became introverted. You know, I was talking to this friend of mine, and she was saying that I know her as an extroverted person, and she was telling me, you know, sometimes I'm introverted and stuff like that. And she was making the case that there's no such thing as introverted and extroverted, but I kind of disagreed, you know. And I just want to see your opinion, and then
On it.
I'll get my own touch on it as well. But-
Yeah, I honestly, I think that each person or their personality has a general disposition. Of course, we're not black and white people. There's your general disposition. I think my general disposition is to be extroverted. Like, I'm
Yeah.
that kind of person. When I get into a place, I don't find it difficult to interact.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind being the conversation starter. I don't mind introducing myself. So I think I'm extroverted that way, you know. And in some cases, but rarely will I be introverted. You understand? Where maybe I'm not in the mood, or I'm not feeling keen to be interactive, so I stay in my shell, or I'm just reading the room a little bit. Maybe I'm in an unfamiliar environment, but it's like I'm telling you right now, I'm an extroverted person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I rarely am I in an introverted
Introvert.
space. Yeah, yeah.
You know,
If you live with me, then you see my introverted parts, but I'm never introverted outdoors. Yeah.
you know, personally for me, I'm an introverted person, and
Oh, really?
it's puzzling, because people. I always say that I'm an introverted person with extroverted tendencies,
Oh, okay. An introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert.
Yeah, tomato to me. Yeah, so I'm an introverted person because the way I define introversion,
Okay.
it's about energy levels.
Okay.
An introverted person is a person who, whenever he's spending time with, let's say, groups of more than 3, 4, 5, there's a certain battery life that is going down and exhausting. While an extroverted person, when he's in groups of people, he just feel that battery just keeps getting filled.
It's
An
recharging, yeah.
exactly. An introverted person consumes energy with social interaction, especially in groups of 3, 4, 5 people. While an extroverted person regains energy. That's kind of the way I interact. But one thing that is very interesting, and I found it very a pattern amongst introverted people, is that introverted people, whenever they're in groups of 2, they're actually most comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I can't explain it fully, but it's something it's actually rejuvenating. It recharges their battery, and it's something I find very interesting. So I disagree that notion that some people are. There's introverted, extroverted. I think there might be kind of like a scale.
Yeah.
Like a pH scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
1 to 14. Some people maybe a 6.
Yeah. Some people, neutral. Some. Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree with this. I agree with this because I find that I think for me I find more introverted people to be more interesting to me. So I have the tendency to want to speak or talk to the most introverted person in the room. Because for me, if they're naturally not speaking their mind, I'm curious to know what they're thinking because they're not saying anything. So for me, that's what drives my curiosity.
Yeah.
That person who's not saying anything. What do you have to say? What are you thinking? That's kind of how I tick. So I find that, like for example, when I do, I told you I do hair, and I think I've met a lot of people who are introverted, but we will talk for hours.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And they'll have their opinions about things. So that environment that is not so, I guess, draining for them is the perfect environment. Because I think maybe the misconception is that introverted people don't talk. They do, they just won't, they are just drained by too much people around.
Yes.
So that drains their energy levels. So in order to preserve that battery, they go in.
Stay to
But
themselves.
if they're in that environment where they feel like their energy is being either rejuvenated or not being drained, they completely talk and they will talk and they will laugh and they will. So I don't know. I think people tend to think introversion is like a person who's just mute and they just want to.
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's just like
Introverts are actually some of the happiest people. These are people who sing in the shower, and do all sort of stuff.
Right. You are very right because I told you my interest in introverted people. It's like it's amazing to see them just be like. It's just that they don't do that around other people, but they're just as animated, just as talkative, and all these things. It's not for a lot of energy or a lot of people. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Shout out to introverted people.
We receive.
Yeah. I'm a person, even though I'm extroverted, I definitely get drained as well, and I need to recharge sometimes. But I think for me, it's more from an emotional and mental perspective because I tend to be an empath, and I feel like people tend to also find comfort in sharing with me. So because I'm an empath, I tend to feel for people and I put myself in their shoes. That can be draining. So after a while, I also need to recharge. But if I'm having those types of conversations,
You
Yeah.
use this term empath. Can you explain it? Empath. What does it mean to be an empath?
Yeah, I know it's like such an overused term, and everybody thinks that they're an empath, and I'm one of those people. Yeah, but I think empathy is the ability to see someone,
Oh,
to put yourself.
empath just means empathy.
And okay, so empathy is the, how can I say, is the expression of what you're doing, and then an empath is the person. Does that make sense? Who is embodying
Shoot.
this trait?
English. English.
Yeah. So that's literally it. But of course, like there's many ways to describe this, because some people describe it in like a spiritual sense, and all these a bit deeper than that. But I just mean it on a surface level.
Yeah.
So empathy, empathizing with someone is being able
To
to
feel what
to put yourself in their shoes. Sympathizing with someone and empathizing with someone are two different things. So, and sometimes that can be confused. But like empathizing with someone is, let's say, putting yourself in their shoes and being able to feel and visualize what they feel in that situation as them. Sympathizing is maybe something bad has happened to you, and I feel sorry for you. But if I'm empathizing with you, I'm putting yourself in that bad situation and imagining what you're feeling. That's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I always feel like there needs to be a certain level of humility to be truly, truly empathetic. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think you're probably right. I guess I've never thought about it that deeply like that. But I think, I think you have to, I guess, humble yourself into someone else's shoes, because sometimes, if you're seeing things from a pedestal, if you're not humble, I don't think you are able to empathize.
Yeah.
This is why the biggest trait for narcissistic tendencies is lack of empathy.
Yeah.
Because there is no humility.
Touche.
So therefore there's lack of empathy. You cannot put yourself into anyone's shoes, because that would be putting yourself lower.
Exactly.
And your ego is inflated, So I think you're right that you have to have humility to have empathy.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
True. And it just, to be able to see something from someone else's perspective, it's a really humble type of behavior, humility-driven type of behavior. You're able to undress from your beliefs, from whatever. Like, for example, like somebody undergoes a tragedy, or somebody goes through something that perhaps you might never go through. If you're on that high horse, you won't be able to understand that person. But if you're able to kind of bear yourself of your clothing, of whatever you might be feeling yourself as, to just be able to put on someone's clothes, I think it's a real noble act of humility. And I think that, a man without humility is a man with no reason to have pride, and not pride in a bad sense, but in a good sense, And it's something that really, especially in my journey, it really speaks volumes to me. But I want to get into something. You said that whenever you go into parties, you like talking to introverted people. I want to...
When you say parties, it's like I'm just out here partying. Yeah, it's social environment.
Social environments.
But that's more political.
Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you agree that introverted people are the people who do the most inner works, or is it maybe an extrapolation of
I
that?
think it is an extrapolation, honestly. Yeah, I don't think that these things are synonymous at all. Yeah,
You're
no.
an extroverted.
No, I don't think. No, it's not because I'm extroverted, but I think that like doing inner work is an intentional thing.
Yeah.
So as long as there's no intention behind it, just because you prefer to be around less people, it doesn't mean, it's not synonymous with you doing inner work.
Yeah.
Because inner work is an intentional thing, and I think anyone can intentionally do inner work, whether you're extroverted or...
Because you can be thinking so much and be thinking nothing at all.
I'll tell you, I'm a very, very an overthinker.
Uh-huh.
You get what I'm saying? So I think being extroverted or introverted, I don't think they are related to how deeply maybe you may think, or I think that's separate. Because I'm an overthinker, I think a lot and I think very deeply, almost like running myself in circles most of the time. So I would imagine that, or I'd like to believe that I'm constantly a person who's thinking about doing some type of inner work, sometimes. But I'm an extroverted person. So I can imagine there's other people like me in this world who are extroverted, who are also not. Like I'm telling you, a lot of my, I have a lot of friends who are introverts. And they are, I think naturally because I'm a deep thinker, they are deep thinkers. But I can imagine there are people who are introverted who are not.
Yeah, not deep thinkers.
Well. Yeah.
And this is something I really want to touch on. And it is something that in the world today, I feel like with the rise of technology and artificial intelligence and so much information, and especially the deliberate propaganda, that people no longer engage in thinking, because they're just being fed information, like how to get to A to Z. There's already the answer there, who should we vote for? There's already the answer. Somebody's already coming with, pre-digested opinions and feeding it to them. Like, how often do you engage in thinking, and how important do you think, real thinking, like thinking for yourself? Because there's two sides of it. I always find that people who go on the extremes of independent thinking, they often turn out to be very controversial. Things that are known to be real facts, they just outright rejected. I was thinking by myself, and I don't believe you can actually get sick from a bacteria. I was just thinking about it. I think they're extremes, and there needs to be.
Yeah, so I think that it's a part where I think there's an important part of combining our knowledge with facts.
Yeah.
It's just like knowledge without applying it is really useless in the end. So I think maybe there's a part of that. But I think the main thing, sorry, I'm just losing my train of thought a little bit, that you talked about like the thinking part. I think it's the independent.
Independent thinking, exactly.
For me personally, it's also something that I worry about, because I'm a person who ingests a lot of content, and I realize that it influences, what I'm just watching, even casually, influences like how I see things, how I see society. A lot of the things that I listen to, that I watch, that I ingest, even for leisure. So now I practice like sometimes putting myself in a vacuum so that I can think for myself. So that I can hear my own thoughts. Because I started to evaluate, I'm like, actually I was listening to this and this is why I think this, and because I agree with this opinion. But like, do I have my own opinions, or I'm formulating my world according to, I guess, maybe people that I revere, or I have a deep respect for their opinions, and I'm adopting what they think or how they think. So even sometimes, like when I'm trying to come up with new ideas of applying myself, or whether it's a project I want to make, sometimes, because there's so many templates that are accessible to us for everything. Even if you want to start your business, there's so many templates. So sometimes, and I'm this person, I think I like to pride myself in originality, but I also had to tell myself there's nothing new under the sun. I'm not going to come up with this.
Exactly.
No matter how badly I want to, I'm not going to come up with this concept that's never been done before. And I think it also comes from deeper in my childhood, because I think I had this identity crisis. Like I told you, I'm an only daughter and I have 2 brothers. So I always wanted to fit in with the boys, but then you get reminded, oh yeah, girl, it's time to go to church, don't wear the Nike shorts. But during the week I want to play with my brothers and I want to match with them, I wear that. Then maybe some cousin sisters come, I want to do the girl thing. So I was always struggling with this. And I think my family was always also trying to empower me to have my own identity. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like maybe they didn't allow me to have this up and down until I balanced myself. But eventually I came into myself. I'm quite the girly girl, and I have my tomboy traits and stuff like that. and everything like that. But like I think they were trying to encourage me to just think independently, be original, and I think that almost tilted over to me being wanting to be hyper original, to the point that I'm not realizing that there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
You know, so it always felt like maybe if I think of something or if I see something that's been done before, that's been done already, I don't want to do it because I want to do my own thing. You understand? But we are all like products of what's happening around us.
Yeah.
We take things from there, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the message that I was getting so young was that I have to do my own thing that
original.
nobody exactly has ever done before, you know. But no.
And I think it's inefficient, to be honest. You know, if
It's
you're
supposed to be building
exactly
from what's been
exactly
done. Yeah.
like if you're trying to create something new, like new, you know, first of all, it's probably not possible because
No.
we are just building on from something that was
From a
already
template.
made.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's this book I was reading, and it said if you want a new idea, go read an old book, you know. And my mentor used to tell me, give me all the bad ideas and I'll make them work. I think creativity comes especially with knowledge. When you know this thing has been done here, this thing has been done here, you know, different ways, and then you create different connections out of it, you know, and it becomes something, you know, creative, something new, you know. And I think it's such a big point to stress on, and it just really speaks volume.
I think it's something I'm going to continue to work on, because I think it has killed my creativity in many ways. Like, I was too focused on trying to be, I don't know, some level of original that's just impossible to attain. So it means I would not pursue certain things because I feel like, oh, but it's been done before. But the fact that you are you is the original part of everything. That even if there's a billion podcasts on the planet, this is Jimmy podcast, and you have your essence that you're bringing here. And that's different. That's it. That's enough. It doesn't matter that there's other people who have, you know, podcasting equipment and they're recording. So I think it's something that I've now come to realize, that my essence is the original thing about me, and that's enough. It doesn't matter if I do exactly. This is why people will do so many things and so many results, because your essence is what's original. Yeah.
There's something I want to touch on, and you are a hairdresser, as you previously mentioned.
Self-proclaimed. I don't have any certificate or anything like that.
So I want to discuss a little bit. Why did you choose this? Is this something that, is it your purpose? Is it something that you love as a hobby? Like, tell me.
I think I mentioned a little bit how it started, but like I do believe it's part of my purpose, because for me, I always say this, one of the valuable things that I've gotten out of the hairdressing is the conversations that I've had with people that I did hair for. I think I respect so much the vulnerability that they share with me, and the things that I get to learn about them. And I'm telling you, like, some of my clients have impacted me at the most important time of my life. You understand? So I think for me, that's where the purpose is. You understand? That's where the purpose is, where that person sitting in my chair has the ability to impact me in a very significant way. And I have the ability in that 2 hours, 6 hours, or whatever that they're sitting there with me to do the same. We can talk, or we cannot talk. It might just be about my energy. So for me, I think that's the purpose. That's where it's at. The hairstyling and everything, I feel like it's just like the vehicle. But the real impact is in the conversations that I had there. You know, that's the work that is done there.
Like barbershop talk.
Yeah. And honestly, like I remember one particular, maybe I'll just mention it, one particular client of mine. I was really not in a good space at that time. Actually, it was, I think, sometime during my final year, I'm in this rut. And I almost wanted to cancel the appointment as well, because I just wasn't feeling motivation. So obviously, like, I was just like, you know what, I don't even feel like I have the energy for this. Let me just cancel this, you know, make an excuse or something. But, you know, in that moment, I was just like, you know what, let me just do it. At least I'll have done something productive. Because for me, I like to be productive. So if I get into that space where I'm not being productive, it's also not good for me.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, at least I will have achieved something today. So he comes along and I start doing his hair. And he actually, you know, shares, and he related a feeling out exactly.
It's a he.
Yes, because I also do hair for guys.
Oh,
Yeah, you know, the twist,
dreadlocks.
the cornrows, the what. Yeah, and he came to do some cornrows, and he shared with me, you know, a situation he had gone through where his pet had passed, right? And he had to transport the pet, but he wasn't in the same city and everything. And he thought that he had so many friends, but not even one person. It was a stranger who actually helped him to complete this task. And how that hurt him. And I think I was also feeling that way. I was feeling a little bit lonely or abandoned in some way. So he really encouraged me in that moment, you know. And he was like, and it helped me to realize that a friend is also somebody who comes to give you support in that moment.
Yeah.
So while you're busy focusing on the people who haven't been able to show up for whatever reason, and they can be also valid, you are forgetting to acknowledge the friend who actually
It's about
showed
the
up.
mindset, the perspective.
There you go. So he actually showed up for me in that moment where I needed that reassurance, and he actually really encouraged me and everything like that. Met for the first time that day. And he shared with me this and everything, and he's never done his hair again with me, but this is the impact he left in my life, and I think this is the purpose, to leave this level of impact, you know. And I remember he tipped me almost half of what he had paid, so his on top. And for me, I was just like, you have already done enough for me. He was like, no, you did such a good job, I really like my style, you know, and everything. And he went his way.
Wow.
You know?
I love those kind of people.
In Swahili, actually, one of my Kenyan friends told me this saying. It's called what? Oh my God, it just flew away. But anyways, it means do good and go your way.
Do good and go your way.
Do good and go your way. I think it's Nemazako what. I forgot, it just flew away.
This feels like something I live by, you know.
That's exactly what he did. And even for me, it reminds me to be also this person.
Yeah.
Hey, when I'm in a position to just do good and go my way, don't hesitate.
Don't
just
hesitate,
do it
yeah.
and go your way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That somebody might need it. You know, you never know what people are going through.
Yeah.
And somebody maybe just needs you to say, hey, you can do it.
Yes.
You know, it just makes somebody's day. But you just thought, oh, I just said these few words, but, you know, maybe you changed someone's life. And
and you might even feel like you've overshared,
Yeah.
which I feel a lot of the times. But I realized, hey, if there are no people oversharing, how will we be getting all the information that we need? People like me who overshare are needed. I just need to be I need to regulate it, yes, but like I think so many people are learning from me sharing my experiences, and for other people it's not something that they'll be comfortable sharing, but I'm okay sharing these aspects of my life.
Maybe it
okay
will
for me.
inspire someone.
I know it is.
It is inspiring.
I know it is, yes, because if I get the feedback. So there, you know, even when you have this podcast, which I really respect, you know, what you're doing here and the determination that you had. Even from the time you DM'd me, I was like, this guy, he's like spitting all these credentials, you know, and whatnot. But it's the level of passion. That's what I saw. So I think God made us bump into each other so that we could have this episode and everything. I really respect what you're doing here, and I see the level of thought and effort that you're putting into it, and the team behind the scenes. We see they're here to support you and make everything happen. So I came here to learn as well how to go forward. So these interactions, they have a reason, they have a purpose. So yeah, like let's keep doing what we're doing. It's important.
I'm honored. You know?
Yeah.
When I saw your podcast and I saw you know, growing up, or not growing up, but before coming to Debrecen, you're already one of the YouTubers I used to watch, and just to know how Debrecen is and stuff like that. Because I always
It
like,
makes me feel good when I hear that because I'm just like that channel is dead because I'm not on it, but I bump into people every now and then, and I think for me it's like, hey, go back, somebody's watching.
somebody.
I'm coming back, guys, and when I come back,
Where Dr. Zozo is coming back.
when I come back, it's gonna be like full force. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch it, and when I was looking, okay, when I, you know, really decided, this is something I've been planning for quite a while, but when I was like, okay, let me make it come to fruition, when I became super intentional about it, you know, I, I often see myself as like hardcore, like going like straight on, bulldozing. You know, if I'm gonna run 10 miles, I'm gonna do it, and by the grace of God, it's something really empowering. But you used to be somebody I used to watch a lot, and when I saw your podcast, I was like, yo, I need to get her to come on a podcast. You know, she's such an interesting person, and just to say, the moment we met at the we met at the shop,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I was like, wait, is this Dr. Zozo? Is this the Joe podcast? I was like, oh my goodness, it's probably not her, you know, because it looked a little bit different to me. You actually looked better in person, to be
I
fair.
think I wasn't wearing makeup, and I feel like I look way younger when I'm not wearing makeup.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So I just look like a kid, and you're like,
I was
this is the
like,
same
is
person.
this really her? But you know, I decided to be bold, and I was like, hey, are you from the Joe podcast? And you were like, yeah. And then
Yeah, because I mean, I'm always aware of my peripheral environment, and I just came because you were like buying your groceries right in front of me, and I could tell that this guy is debating whether or not he will have a conversation. So I was just like, whatever, I'm going about my business, but I could see it because I could see you were hesitating to. You know, so I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's one of those interactions, you know, where I don't know. So when you were like, hey, are you from the podcast? So when you faced me, because you weren't really facing
Yeah.
me, when you faced me, I was like, I recognized the face. Yeah. So when you immediately when you mentioned it, and then you were starting to mention, oh, by the way, and when you talked and I heard the accent, I was like, ah, it's that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's and when we talked, when we had that conversation, you know, we clicked, and I was like, man, this is gonna make for an interesting conversation, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing I want to really get into is, since you're doing hairstyle business,
Yes.
you know, and I know you're into makeup as well,
I wouldn't say I'm into makeup, honestly.
but you do it, like you put it on.
On myself,
Yeah.
but I don't do makeup on other people. I mean, I have just because someone asked, you know, it's not like my area of expertise.
Yeah, but it's fine.
Yeah.
But one thing I really want to discuss is about beauty. What do you think beauty is? How would you define beauty?
Whew, that's an interesting question for me because I think from a very young age, it was instilled in me that my physical beauty is not the most important thing. It's how smart I am. So for me, I don't think I was ever aware of my own physical attractiveness
Yeah.
until much later in life. I was always like, I want to be the smartest person around. I want to. That was me. I was like, the biggest compliment that a person can pay to me is if they say, you're really smart, or you're really intelligent, or so. Those were the compliments to me that made me, maybe we could call it, that would inflate my ego. So I think beauty has come to mean so many different things to me. I think there is a part of beauty that is physical, what you see in front of you,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, this is a beautiful person. But I think for me, it's the essence of someone is what I find beautiful, like how they are, how their energy is, and I find beauty in that. I think I find it even to the point that it translates physically for me.
Yeah.
So if I see a person who's just super kind, super warm, super genuine, for me, I'm going to find them physically actually attractive because of those traits. I won't go to all the to as far as, oh, I'm sapiosexual, this that. No, I still see, you know what I mean. But I think for me, that's what beauty is. What is within that is, I think, emanating without. You know what I mean? I think if someone could see more than the packaging, for example, because I think these things are subjective. Someone could think I'm drop dead gorgeous. Someone would be like, average. Someone would be like, whoa, you know, it's subjective. But I think for me, there's a part of my beauty, if I work on that, that is going to be consistent. Whether or not someone thinks I'm physically attractive, they'll see that beauty. That's beauty for me.
That's actually a very amazing answer, you know.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like somebody may see you and say that, hey, this person is average. And it's funny to me because I once read this definition about beauty, and it was a group of scientists, I think in the 50s, and they were conducting an experiment to see how do people perceive beauty. And what they found is that beauty is just a combination of the average factors. Maybe somebody with an average nose, somebody with the average eye, somebody with the average lips. And then they came to the conclusion beauty is just a measure of how average you are. You know? Crazy.
It makes sense because, you know, we measure average based off of what? The environment, right?
Yeah.
The average thing, okay, we bring. So that's why it's so subjective.
Yeah.
But how average you are in whatever environment or the whatever standard of beauty
Exactly.
it is. The more average you are, the more likely you're going to be beautiful across the board.
And that just
Maybe.
explains why people are
Interesting.
often attracted to people of the same culture. For example, if I'm Indian and you're Indian, you know, we're more likely to get married. Or if I'm black, I'm looking maybe for a black girl.
But don't you think it's also just like a cultural thing? You know, because I think the things that we value, they also, this is why I say the things that we value, they speak beauty to us.
Exactly.
You understand?
They
So
do.
I think even those things contribute to what becomes a beautiful woman to you.
Yeah, they
You know,
do.
so a woman who you feel like values the same morals with you, maybe they're from the same culture with you, they will become instantly more beautiful
They will.
than maybe an exactly same looking woman, but from a different culture and moral standpoint or background. So it could be that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's like a myriad of factors that play a role.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just really emphasizing on this culture thing, how do you think culture has really shapes us, especially from our African cultures? Do you think divergence from culture is a good thing or a bad thing? Do you think like colonialism as it came, do you think it was a good thing or a negative thing? And tell me, how do you think about it?
I think maybe touching first on colonialism, I think overall we can all agree it was a bad concept because it involved suppressing other people's freedom and things like that. But like everything, it has its good impacts and its bad impacts. We say overall it was a bad thing, but I think it did bring whatever developments that it brought and stuff like that. So I think, as far as like culture, African culture, like what you mentioned, I think as I get older, I have a more appreciation of how when people have cultural similarities, how much easier it is to connect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As a person who's intentionally allowed myself to open up to other cultures in terms of from just hearing, not necessarily adopting, but hearing about it and, you know, seeing how it's like in other cultures and hearing their experience of their cultures and getting an appreciation of what they value about their culture. I think it made me also have a deep appreciation for my own culture and how it has shaped me into the person that I am today and how that has positive impacts and negative impacts. I think the positive impacts of me being a Zimbabwean Shona woman who was, you know, raised by in a Christian home, even that's part of my culture as well, and the things that I was brought up to value. I was brought up to value family. I was brought up to value my dignity. I was brought up to value these values. I think they are core values that I think they have allowed me to stay grounded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even in the people that I choose to become intimately involved in my life. And I think that has protected me from a lot of things. So that's a part of culture that is positive. In the same breath, I think there are parts of my culture that are very closed off, patriarchal even, suppressive even, towards, let's say, women, for example, and things like that. So those are parts also of my culture that are not beneficial, that are not good for me. So I think
we need to be able to filter from.
Yeah, and I think that's subjective,
Yeah.
what you filter. I think there's some parts of my culture that other people consider like maybe wayward or not good. For example, I know that Angolans also have this culture of paying the bride price.
Yeah.
But
you guys don't have that?
We have it. It's called Ruora.
Okay.
But I guess in modern culture, in a lot of us who have now kind of growing up in the West and feeling like, oh, this is, why should someone pay for someone? They're not a product. There's these ideas as well. But for me, it's a culture I really deeply respect and appreciate. So,
Yeah.
that's a part of our culture that can be seen in different ways by different people.
Yeah.
But for me, I respect this part of my culture.
When I was actually in the US, I had one of these aunts of mine. She was getting married, and she was getting married to this Mexican guy. There are a lot of Mexicans coming in, and the thing that shocked me, and I was like 12 years old, and my mom used to talk to me about it, and she was like, "Hey, Jimmy, do you know that here in Mexico, if you get married, the wife's family actually has to pay for the marriage?"
Yeah, it's the same thing I think in Indian culture as well. Like it's groom price, not bride price.
What?
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I think you see, so I think when I heard that and realized for some people this is the culture that they are actually valuing and following through, you just get to realize that, hey, we're just different cultures and we value different things. That's all.
I might be considering now marrying an Indian. She's paying for. No, I'm just joking.
But then it means that that's up to you now. Have you decided to abandon your own culture?
No. Actually, feel like it's positive. I think there's a pride in paying for it. Paying the cost, the appropriate cost. For something that you value. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Personally, for me, I don't quite see it that way per se, because in my culture they express it as a token of appreciation. Exactly. And in our cultures they are more, I guess would say, patriarchal. So when the woman gets married, she literally leaves her home and she's now part of the other family. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like we are uprooting this person from you guys and we're making them ours now. So we are giving appreciation. Thank you for, giving birth to this lovely Tendie,
Yeah.
She's amazing and we want her on our side of things. We want her to adopt our name and all these things. Anyways, that's how I personally see it.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be a token of appreciation. It's not supposed to be a get-rich scheme for the bride's family.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be like that. But you can see in this same culture, many people within it are interpreting these things in so many different ways and valuing
very
them
different
differently.
ways.
Some people really are selling their daughters, so their daughters are a commodity and you have to pay up.
In some of the cultures that I know of, they would get this full list, and the bride's family would be putting maybe a generator, a car, a suit, expensive, and
There you go.
and the husband really has to, come through with these demands.
And to be fair, if a man wanted to marry me and my family asked for all this craziness and they went through with it, I'll be like, really? He's really that invested? But does it have to be that way? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think it has to be some get-rich scheme. People shouldn't be greedy like that. We're joining families.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to exchange a product. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Is there really any value you can put to me as a human being? How many US dollars?
1
If you
million.
were to value me?
Jokes, jokes.
You can.
You
I'm a
can,
person. That's my point.
Yeah.
Like, so if you start to put all these material possessions and increasing them and stuff, you're actually saying that there's a material value to this person.
I think that the value is more symbolic than anything. Like in Namibia, for example, there's instead of money, they trade cows. If
That's the big money, if you
yeah,
ask
and
me.
if the woman is educated, she would have to pay more.
Can you imagine what my
You-
husband would have to do?
Imagine medicine, even maybe
it's
30
crazy.
cows or 40 cows, and I think it's more symbolic that
Yeah.
you really appreciate the person you're going to marry, and to me at least, it's a beautiful thing, to just
Me too.
go and show appreciation,
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
that a symbolic value, and she'll feel appreciated.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think I would ever want to be married to somebody who cannot have an appreciation of where I come from and value the things that I also value. You understand?
Yeah.
So I think for me, this part of my culture is very important to me. So I think somebody who honor that is an expression of love to me.
Yeah.
The same way I think, there's many different things that, people culturally do, cultural rights, and some of it is, it's not the most comfortable, but I think for someone to go through those uncomfortable things on your behalf or for you, it's still something to actually value as well. I mean, I remember I was discussing with one of my Zambian friends in their culture, when a woman gets married, I think there's some kneeling that she has to do. I forgot exactly how to put it into words and stuff like that, and on the event, and she's supposed to make some we call it sadza, I don't know, pop with her mouth, because it's supposed to show that no matter if she is crippled, she should always be able to care for her husband.
Crazy.
That's the symbolic thing. And you
Crazy.
can imagine, it's terrible. On your wedding day, this is what you're doing, right? And everything.
It's horrible
But for me,
demonstration.
exactly. But for me, you can imagine this husband, obviously he doesn't want his wife to be going through this. She doesn't want to be going through
Yeah.
it. But of course, to join the families, this is part of what you do, So for me, it's in a messed up way still an expression of how dedicated she is towards that person to be going through that.
Yeah.
So that, to respect this so that you can be together. Does that make sense? So I think for me, it's part of those things that if you respect the culture and you're going to go through it, you have to know why you're going through it. You have to decide that, I'm going to do this because I'm deeply invested in this person. So if a guy doesn't want to pay bride price or participate in this culture of mine, then it's not me that they want. That's how I kind of see it.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. I really agree with that. And I want to get on into some rapid fire questions.
Oh,
And what is the one word somebody would use to describe you meeting you for the first time?
this is a hard question. How would you describe meeting me for the first time?
I would say competent. Competent.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Yeah.
What is one word that one person would say to you that knows you extremely well?
I think they'll say I'm a passionate person.
Passionate.
Passionate, yes.
Okay, it's nice. What is one word you would use to describe yourself?
I'll describe myself as a passionate person. I'm really passionate about things I'm into and what I do. Yeah.
So the people who know you really know you well.
Yes, people who know me very well. They're not a lot, but yeah, they know me well.
Okay. What is one word that someone who doesn't agree with you would describe you as?
I would say open.
Open.
Open. I think I'm open to
New ideas.
to hearing your perspective. I'm open to hearing your line of thought, Yeah. I would even go as far as saying sometimes I can be swayed easily.
Wow.
Sometimes.
Given
Like if
the
I'm
right
very
case.
convicted about something, I'm relentless. I'm like a dog with a bone. Yeah, if
Oh,
I'm
wow.
convicted about something, but I'm open for the most part.
What is one word you're trying to embody right now?
I think it's consistency.
Consistency.
Consistency, yeah.
I love
think
that.
that's my biggest struggle. So it's something I'm really trying to embody for sure. Yeah.
Okay. What advice would you give your younger self?
I have so many. I
We're
have so many.
listening and we have time.
Okay. Okay. Great. Whew. I think
I was
first,
being facetious.
I know we have a time stamp. Yeah, I'll try not to go off, but I think I would tell her to. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with who you are. There's nothing wrong with being assertive. There's nothing wrong with being confident. I would tell her that she doesn't have to people please so much to impress anybody. That you're enough the way that you are and the way that God created you. He made you the way you are for a reason, with your little quirks, with the little things that you're specifically interested in. And there's nothing wrong with that, even if not everybody is going to appreciate. Remember that whoever cannot appreciate who you are is not your target market. So that's okay. Just keep trying to better yourself, and you're on the right path. Yeah, I would tell younger Tendie that.
That's really, really deep,
Yeah.
and many people can use that advice. What is one advice you would give to yourself in the future watching this? Maybe there's something in your life that you feel like right now you're doing it best. And maybe perhaps in the future you might forget some lessons and you might fall off and stuff like. What is one advice you would give to your future self watching this?
Remember to go back to basics. Remember to remember God. Remember to remember. Remember to take care of the person that needs to pour into others. Remember to pour into yourself so you can pour more into others. I think those two things, if I can always remind myself of these things throughout my lifetime, I'm sure I'll be able to navigate whatever ups and downs. To remember God is my source, and to remember to pour into myself so I can pour more into other
others.
people. Yeah.
Powerful, powerful.
Yeah.
Dr.Tendie, it's been an amazing podcast, an amazing conversation. I really appreciate it. I believe we can learn lessons from you. You've shown a story of persistence, relentlessness,
Thank you.
and you failed, but you've decided, that in this story, it's gonna be your story, that you're gonna win, In the midst of perhaps many villains, you decided to become a hero. And I love that for your story. And I hope that you at home can see her as inspiration, that you can go into bumps and hurdles in life and still succeed. I hope that you can pour more into yourself. Tindie, you're a woman never to be forgotten. And if the world ever forgets you, I for a fact never will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there something you would like to say perhaps to the people at home or
Yeah. Well, firstly, I think most importantly, actually, thank you so much for bringing me to your platform and allowing me to share my story in this way. And I think you were able to draw out things in me maybe that I wouldn't have quite been able to do myself. So I really appreciate that. I think you're a very well-spoken man, and I think your passion is palpable in this room, in this place. And I think that if you remain this passionate and this focus on what you're doing, I'm already confident that this Dr. Jimmy, this podcast is going to go a long way, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I truly, truly hope I'll be back again.
Definitely.
And you'll come over to Journey of Life, and I get to pick your brain as well. And then to you guys, the listeners, the viewers, I think just stay encouraged. Just stay encouraged. Keep pushing to achieve, I think, the best self. I think everything starts from within us. I'm all about deconstructing the idea that we are centered on our achievements and all these accolades that are written down on paper or something, or material possessions. But I think the real value and the gold is within us. So do that work. Become a better version of yourself. If you can become a kinder person, more compassionate person, morally standing right and things like that. We're all a work in progress, but yeah, keep pushing to make the right decisions, even in this world that pushes us towards being about self. I challenge you, to exercise, selflessness, but with caution. That's all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So stay put, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much.